much for being back. If you just joined us, still on to Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get to our conversation for today. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's decision to sack Mele Kyari and other board members of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited stems from mounting concerns over performance and a failure to meet key production targets, presidency officials have disclosed. In an abrupt move on Wednesday, Tinubu removed Kyari, who had been at the helm of the National Oil Company since 2019, as part of a broader overhaul, which the presidency said was aimed at boosting Nigeria's crude and gas output. As part of the restructuring, the president appointed Bayo Ojulari as the new group chief executive officer, with Musa Amadu Kida named as the non-executive chairman of the 11-member board. The changes took effect from Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. Multiple presidency officials familiar with the development said the shakeup was a performance-based reshuffle, arguing that those previously in charge were going in circles and some of them had become part of the problem rather than the solution. I still have with me Innocent Aduluba. Thank you so very much, Innocent, for being around. Truly do appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So let's get talking, Innocent, on this particular matter. I'd love to start by asking the very obvious question. Lots of Nigerians would love to ask if they have the opportunity of speaking to our president. And the question would be, why is it that every time he does something, or any time he puts up a reshuffling or whatever it is, it might be called, that effect is more than what has been done? Since the removal of Mele Kyari, the price of PMS has gone back to 915 naira. What is happening to us in this country, Innocent?
Well, they tell us it's market forces. And with that kind of comment, you can't even hold or blame anybody. In Europe, you hear, oh, when Manchester United won the league, oh, the stock skyrocketed. Oh, when Donald Trump did this, oh, but here, you will rather hear that prices, the one that the common man were groaning under previously, had gone higher again, you know. So what do we do, Henry? But I think Mele Kyari should celebrate, unless we don't know how long Ojulari will last. Mele Kyari remains the longest serving Gceo of NNPCL. A lot of commendations has trailed his appointments, his tenure, but last night when I listened to a national news, they said his biggest undoing was almost never remitting the returns from NNPCL to the central bank. So who knows if that may be among the reasons necessitating for that change. They call it sweeping change, right? Our traveling president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yes, because one would wonder why, the sudden reshuffling. The way politics is done in this country. Once the one in charge is beginning to sense that the subjects are not, aligning to a particular narrative, the feud and the fracas, exudes, and that's what we see in Nigeria. Of course, Mele Kyari has been there for a very long time. Nigerians have been, questioning his capacity in that particular position. Remember, he was part of those that brokered the Tantita deal with Tompolo, to have the pipeline protection so we can, of course, increase our barrels per day supply to the international community. But up until now, we're still below 1.5 million barrels per day when we should be shooting upwards to about 2 million. So do you think this and many more could be the reason Or are we sensing something different here?
Well, Henry, good you mentioned the Tantita. Of course, not exactly the case, but say like under General Sani Abacha, when more military were needed, it was not a para-military services that were gotten. He had the National Guard, you know. And Nigeria is reputable for groundworks, artillery groundworks in Liberia, Sierra Leone, out there and across the world. So I'm wondering if Tantita are superior to Nigeria's military. We have the Navy, in the Army, you have the NNS, and NANSA, NNS, all of this, who I believe. So if the amount doled out to that Tantita contract was thrown into the Army, even half of it for incentive, Henry, I think the Army of Nigeria, we know their patriotism has never been in doubt, I dare say, compared to some extortionist activities of alleged against the Nigerian police. I mean, the Army come with a rather clean reputation.
Very well.
So, Mele Kyari, I think he superintended over a commercial wastage. It may be the highest if we put him with others. For what the NNPCL stands for, barring politics area, I believe there are people you give it to run, and you will be amazed. You'll be amazed. But we don't know whose interest clashes the most, and what we see is what we get. And in comes in Bashir by Ojulari, Henry.
Yeah, very, very true. Because if we do a little bit of comparisons here, to big companies, oil companies, oil majors like Aramco in Saudi Arabia and that in Brazil, these are companies that should be on the same level, with NNPC, or NNPC should be at the level of Aramco and co. But when you compare what Aramco in Saudi Arabia, due to the economy and equally serve the international, export of Saudi Arabia and that of Brazil, you see that NNPC is actually playing in the smaller league, and all of these things, could be channeled to lack of leadership. But Innocent, let's speak to other matters. You remember back in the days when Dangote was just about to float his refinery, he did mention of blending plants and equally questioned NNPC's capacity, or complicit to making those blending plants work. Now, do you think in any way we can, if possible, draw the dots and connect them? The blending plant, as alleged by Dangote, which we still do not know who it belongs to, and Oando, which of course is an affiliate company of Ajip and NNPC, which has an affiliation with our president, with the nephew running Oando. So are we trying to, if possible, draw a conclusion in all of this, that Mele Kyari might not be playing the game as it would have been expected of him, and therefore he has to be kicked out, so that someone else can come and play a better game that would favor Oando, which is affiliated to the president, and possibly making Dangote sit alone, and hopefully, who knows, something else will happen. So this is just an illusion. What do you think?
Henry, in public administration, there is the concept of public cooperation. And you see, public corporation are organizations owned by the government to run commercially with an eye for subsidy, or selling less than the market, so that they can thrive on their on marginal profits, and then bring some relief to the masses, like this fueling stations we have. If, like you just mentioned, the price is at 950, did you say that?
Yes, exactly.
the NNPC, for instance, the NNPC could sell at 800. And you leave Nigerians to go there and contend with the queue, but be content with the pricing. Do you understand?
Yes.
So with all of these linkages, blenders, Oando, it tells you what we call public corporations in Nigeria are serving private interests, because all of what you have named do not belong to the public. They are public limited companies,
yes.
Some of them PLCs, you know, accountable to their own board and perhaps read out their quarterly reports on the stock exchange, which is no more accountable to the public. Henry, a lot of permutations here and there, but the reality is there was a time to appoint Melekiari, and the time for his exit has come. I think we should focus more on the engineer Bashir Bayo Ojulari, who is now the group CEO, and Ahmad Musa Kida, who is a non-executive chairman. There are other people in that team, all of them familiar with the terrain. Adeda Poshego is the new chief financial officer. He replaced Umar Ajia. There are other 6 board members, non-executive directors, all of them to represent Nigeria's geopolitical zones. So, Henry, maybe we should be looking at the man, Engineer Bashir Bayo Ojulari, who I must tell you that in some quarters, there are some uproar, let me go by the word, allegedly, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appointed his brother.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
talking about being a Yoruba. But Ojulari is somebody who comes from Kwara State. And I think people from Southwest, Southeast, South can also challenge that appointment along ethnic lines. Melekiari was from the Northwest, Ojulari from North Central. So that North is still the South could also. So if sections of the North allegedly are flying this ethnic kite, it means even our regionalization is in shambles. You appoint Iyocha Ayu to head the PDP. They tell you he is not from the North, the Northerners. Meanwhile, the Southerners know that Iyocha Ayu is also not from the South. And so you see that horizon,
yeah, exactly.
that between Kwara, Kogi, Benue in limbo. We cannot declare them as north as can be.
I cannot have them on the south.
As can be.
Yeah.
Yes, you know. But again, Ojulari has served as executive vice president and chief operating officer at Renaissance African Energy Company, where he recently spearheaded a 2.4 billion acquisition of the Shell Petroleum Development Company, you know, consortium of indigenous firms. So some people are saying that he is already part of the old guard, you know. His northern credentials are cemented by his alumnus status from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. And he is a graduate who led the turnaround maintenance team of the Bonga FPSO, which is now the second NNPC limited Gceo in history. So the biggest credential he has is that he has cut his teeth at Elf Aquitaine. He was the first Nigerian process engineer. From there, he had joined Shell. You know, he has careers in Europe and the Middle East. All of them include petroleum engineering, strategic planning, asset management. He has served as MD of Shell and then chairman as well. So, Henry, I would say from where we stand for now, Henry, let's give kudos to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The appointment seemed to be a round peg in a round hole. Henry?
Yes, very true. We can call it round peg in a round hole. And this is not new, coming from the president himself. Remember Cardoso, because if you take a look at his career journey, it's equally very similar to that of Bayo too. But today, CBN cannot be said to be doing awesomely well, especially managing our financial ecosystem, ensuring that due diligence is seen in the financial industry, and so many other things that are still missing within our financial sector. But don't you think that is what we might see possibly coming from this engineer, Mr. Bayo? Because it seemed to us the Nigerians are getting very tired on the type of individuals and personalities that come from the stable of the president. So do you really see anything different? Although you've said that let's give him some benefit of the doubt, but do you see a similarity of what we see today with Cardoso running the CBN on the part of Bayo equally running the NNPC?
Engineer Bashir Bayo Ojulari, Group CEO, it remains to be seen, Henry. Notice that the man is, if he is very old now, maybe barely 48 hours on that saddle. And so we don't have the omens, we don't have the crystal ball to see and predict how his administration will go. Like Cardoso, Henry, don't look at the person, don't look at Cardoso, don't look at Ojulari, look at their principle. Look at their principle. And it is in that light I can digress and tell you that, what was his name, Professor Mahmoud of INEC. Are you with me, Henry?
Yes, very well.
Professor Mahmoud. Professor Mahmoud should be uneasy on his seat. I think maybe an appointment for a change should be heading his way as well, if my hunches are right. So, but you see, as long as the principal is happy, so to speak, with the appointee. So, however you criticize Engineer Bashir Bayo Ojulari, however, if his principals are happy with him, he is going to retain his seat. Professor Mahmoud is the longest serving INEC chairman and has done that. Come November, it will be 10 years. Henry.
Yes, very, very true. Because, when you take a look at some of the things, because actually our duty here as media professionals is to, look at the left, look at the right, and equally, try as much as we can to juxtapose both, and equally give some benefit of the doubt, while equally raising important questions that might happen in the future. But of course, you rightly said that Bayo has been a very clean fellow, and I was actually just going through. Innocent, I actually did something different here. As you were speaking, I went to ChatGPT, just to ask that question. And guess the question I actually asked. I said, ChatGPT, give me controversies of Bayo Ojulari. And ChatGPT actually said this, and I think it's so very important that we make mention of this. It said that that engineer for decades had not been involved in any sort of corruption or whatever, that he has a clean slate. That's what ChatGPT actually brought out. But of course, it questioned what he had not been able to do with Shell. And those are the things ChatGPT said here, that Shell's environmental disputes in the Niger Delta, which is an issue, oil spills and court cases against Shell Nigeria, and general corruption issues with the company he had worked for. So do you think it's anyway fair enough to say, yes, Bayo has a clean slate, but the company he was working for did not have so much of a clean slate, and therefore, is it okay to say, let's rub it on him in any way? It's just a wild thought here.
Okay, I'm going to say he's coming into a different board. I am very well immersed in the Shell environmental case. It's a very big mess. I think that's why since like 1994, after the uproar and cry by the Bayelsa people, predominantly Kenkana, Gokana, Borikam, all that area coming to Yenagoa, they've even been carrying out protests, including former Super Eagles captain Joseph Yobo joining in those protests. The federal government in around January has promised to build a university for that community and want to return to oil exploration in that community. And I would think that it's a political coincidence to promise a university just at the time you're about to return to oil exploration. That's a very good policy, but the mess, the environmental degradation, I would think should precede any exploration. Clean up the environment when that pollution is out there or has brought to the barest minimum, then you commence. So let's not single out Engineer Bashir Ojulari. He was part of a team, Henry, truth be told. We can now assess him now directly, now that he's sitting atop the NNPCL proper. If you look at that community there in Bayelsa and some other river oil producing communities, they have water. It's not good enough for drinking. They have fishes. They are dead through oil poisoning. They have this. The land is so polluted they cannot farm. And these are people sitting atop the own Nigerian's goose that lays the golden egg. So maybe those are the pressure I would expect civil society groups to bring to bear on Engineer Bashir from the takeoff of his administration, so that the ghosts from his shell days, as ChatGPT will tell you, unfulfilled, would chase him here and remind him to do the needful as well, Henry. But congratulations to him and Haji Kida and all the other team members. It's a change that, if you ask me, is overdue. The change is here. I say it remains to be seen. We cannot forecast them negatively. We take them day by day. But put pressure and ask critical questions along the way, Henry.
Yes, very, very true. I think it's so very important that we do, some of these things, and equally, hold our leaders, hold their feet to the fire. That's our responsibility here. Don't take them, softly, but of course, pose the most important questions and ask that they remain accountable to us. We wish Engineer, Bayo, an awesome, great job with the NNPC, and hope finally that we might see a Nigeria where a fuel, the PMS, might return back to 200 naira. Do you think it's ever possible? Innocent.
With God, all things are possible.
Yes, with God, all things are possible. So many people would say. But of course, it still needs a lot of hard work and intentionality from those in power. Thank you so very much, Innocent, for being here. We truly do appreciate your conversation today.
My pleasure being here. Thank you, Henry.
Oh, yes, all right, people, that's just about the time we have for today. I would love to believe you enjoyed our show. We'd love to say thank you to you for being here, but please do well to visit us. You might read up on all that we had discussed today when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.